Revealed, struggling CEO saves pregnant girl on roof. Her incredible secret transforms 1,000 lives. Jason Carter, a 38-year-old CEO, stood at the crumbling edge of his family's legacy, grappling with the impending bankruptcy of their once thriving business. The heart of Detroit thudded around him, once a river of dreams now soaked in despair. Vacant lots and boarded-up storefronts lined the streets, mirroring the decay of hope. Yet, every evening at the local diner, the warmth of his community wrapped around him like a well-worn blanket, offering solace over greasy burgers and shared laughter, but tonight was different. The weight of mounting bills crashed down harder than usual, tightening his chest. Tension flared at home. Just as he felt he might snap, he caught a flicker of movement out of the corner of his eye. A figure perched precariously on the roof of an abandoned building. Maria, a 19-year-old girl, visibly pregnant and teetering on the edge of despair. His heart raced, and instinct took over. "What the hell?" he murmured, rushing towards her. Every step echoed his fears of what could happen if he didn't intervene. As he reached her, the wind whipped around them, carrying the smell of rust and decay. "Please, don't do this," he shouted, his voice trembling with urgency. Their eyes locked, and Jason saw in her the reflection of his own struggles, anguish mixed with a flicker of resilience. As fear washed over her face, he edged closer, desperate to pull her back. "You have so much to offer," he pleaded, just as Maria's tears spilled down her cheeks. Jason learned her extraordinary story, an unyielding spirit that inspired the youth in their community to pursue education instead of crime. They spoke of dreams under flickering streetlights, her words igniting a flame in him he hadn't felt in years. "You could be a beacon," he whispered, hope swelling in his chest. Filled with an irresistible determination, Jason began to mobilize support for an event to showcase Maria's vision, an event that could uplift their struggling community. But as whispers of his plans spread, local leaders pushed back with undeniable venom. "She's not worthy," they spat, igniting old prejudices. His heart sank as he faced fierce resistance. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Setbacks piled high as promises fell flat, community centers shuttered their doors, sponsors retracted support, and doubt hung thick in the air. Jason felt crushed beneath the weight of each blow, but Maria's unwavering spirit became a lifeline. They forged a bond, side by side against the storm, fighting for every dreamer yearning for hope. As the event loomed closer, tensions twisted tighter. Then, in a stunning twist, a revelation about Maria's past surfaced, threatening to rip their fragile alliance apart. With the community on edge, Jason faced an impossible choice: chase after his fading glory or stand by Maria, risking everything for a cause far greater than himself. Time slipped away, and as they stood on the precipice of change, the clock ticked down ominously. Would one act of selflessness be enough to transform not just their lives, but the very fabric of their community? The answer loomed closer, shrouded in uncertainty, leaving Jason and Maria on the brink of a moment that could shift everything forever. The morning sun peeked through the grime-streaked windows of Jason's office, casting a pallid light over scattered papers and unanswered emails. As he poured himself a cup of coffee, his mind raced with the conversation he had with Maria the night before. The weight of the revelation about her past hung over him like a thick fog, each minute feeling more suffocating than the last. Do I really know her? He asked himself, glancing out at the chaos of the city. He knew the stakes were higher than ever, but uncertainty clawed at him. Would her past overshadow the good they sought to build? Jason's heart beat erratically as he thought of the community event just a week away. A chance to spotlight Maria's vision could tether together the dreams of many, but would it hold when it was tied to someone with a shadowy history? As he sat down at his cluttered desk, his phone buzzed insistently. It was a message from the local news station. They had caught wind of the murmurs from community leaders about the event and wanted a word. He inhaled deeply, bracing himself for what was to come. The skepticism brewing outside threatened to drown out all the hope he and Maria had kindled together. However, this was not just about him anymore, it was about the countless lives yearning for change. If they could showcase the resilience within Maria's story, it might quiet the naysayers. Heart still racing, Jason replied to the reporter, agreeing to an early interview. When that afternoon arrived, Jason stood in front of the camera, a parade of emotions swirling inside him. The studio lights blazed down, but the weight of doubt pressed heavily on his shoulders. The interviewer began, and he felt every ounce of urgency in her questions, probing into the details of Maria's past. Isn't it risky to promote someone with such a complicated story? How do you respond to critics who say she might not be a role model? The interviewer's words sliced through the air, charged with confrontation. Jason could feel his pulse thundering in his ears, yet he stood his ground. Every person carries a unique past, he began, rallying the fervor he felt on the rooftop. What matters is what we choose to do with it. Maria is not just her past, she is a voice for the voiceless, a beacon of hope for those who struggle, just like all of us. As he spoke with conviction, a glimmer of sincerity sparkled in his eyes. He envisioned Maria's face, the hope she inspired in their community, and the chances they could create together. The reporter's frown softened, if only just slightly. But he knew the road to altering perceptions was long and fraught with challenges. After the interview, Jason returned to the diner where it all began, his sanctuary. As he sank into a booth, surrounded by familiar faces, their chatter formed a soothing hum. But he could feel the tension still taut in the air. "There's going to be pushback," a voice called from across the room. It was Claire, an old friend who had supported him throughout his roller coaster ride in business. "Yeah," he replied, staring into his coffee, fighting back the weight of anxiety clawing at his insides. "What if they're right? Then we make them see the truth," Claire said, her expression hardening with determination. "You believe in her, and you better believe in yourself, too. This isn't just about you, this is about everyone who needs a chance." The fire around him rekindled. With renewed resolve, Jason took a deep breath. "You're right. It's not just about the doubts. It's about the hopes." He picked up his phone and texted Maria. "We're going to prove them wrong. Meet me at the diner tonight. I have a plan." As he sent the message, Jason felt a jolt of adrenaline course through him. With every challenge they faced, he knew the strength of their bond would be tested. But as he gazed out the diner window at the sun setting over the city, his heart churned with hope. The hardest battles often lead to the most significant transformations, but what if the battle ahead was far darker than he could predict? With shadows closing in, would they be strong enough to confront the truth, no matter the cost? The diner buzzed with life as Jason sat, fidgeting with his coffee cup, anticipation swirling inside him. Each tick of the clock on the wall seemed amplified in the space, drawing out the seconds as he waited for Maria. Would she bring clarity, or more questions? There was a knot in his stomach that wouldn't untie. When the bell above the door jingled, his heart leaped. Maria entered, an aura of strength and vulnerability weaving around her. She scanned the room, spotted him, and her eyes lit up. The tension in Jason's chest softened slightly at the sight of her smile, but it quickly tightened again as she approached. "Hey," she said, sliding into the seat opposite him. "Sorry, it's okay," he interrupted, ready to dive in. I wanted to talk about the event. Things are heating up. I had my interview today." Maria nodded, her expression shifting, a hint of worry skimming across her features. "I saw it. You handled the questions well, Jason. But, are you sure about this? We can't let them define you. Your story, its power, it's what will change lives," he replied, leaning forward, the urgency of their mission pulling him closer to her. Maria took a deep breath, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass. "You know, I didn't just come from a rough past. There are things I haven't told you, things that could hurt this project. Her voice trembled slightly, revealing the vulnerability beneath her resolve. What do you mean? Jason pressed, his heart racing again. Whatever it is, we can get through it. She looked around, making sure no one was eavesdropping. Before I got here, I was involved with some dangerous people. They knew my family, Jason. I grew up in a world where survival often meant making choices I'm not proud of. Jason felt the floor shift beneath him. Her words were heavy, each syllable weighing down the hope he'd fought so hard to cling to. Maria, if this is about keeping the community safe, we can work something out. We'll put safeguards in place. What if they come after us? What if the truth comes crashing in, revealing more than just my past? She shot back, her voice rising. Then we face it together. You're not alone in this anymore, he insisted, desperation creeping into his tone. You deserve to be free of what happened before. We can make this work. She fell silent, her gaze lowering. There was a moment, fleeting but palpable, where fear and courage collided. I want to believe that. But it's not just about us, Jason. I'm pregnant. The words hit him like a freight train, knocking the breath from his lungs. He could hardly comprehend what she just said, yet within him, a flood of emotions surged: joy, panic, confusion. You're pregnant? I didn't want to overwhelm you, but it's true, she confessed softly, tears shimmering in the corners of her eyes. This baby is part of my future, part of the hope we're trying to build, but it also makes everything more complicated. Complicated? He echoed, his mind racing. Maria, this could be amazing. We can build a family together, a new life. But listen, how do we make sure your past doesn't crush that hope? Her gaze was piercing, filled with resolve. We expose the truth. I have to confront my demons before I can embrace the future, and that might mean facing those people I left behind. His heart pounded in solidarity. Then we'll do it. Together, we'll make sure nothing stands in the way of your story, your truth. It's ours now, and we'll make them listen. As they locked eyes, a newfound understanding lingered in the air between them. The shadows seemed a little less daunting. But just then, the diner's phone rang, interrupting their moment. Jason reached out to answer it, his brow furrowing slightly. Hello. A voice on the other end, slick and confident, sent tingles down his spine. Mr. Quinn. We need to talk. Your little project with Maria. It could get messy. Jason's grip on the phone tightened. Who is this? Consider it a warning. Don't get in over your head, the voice chuckled mockingly before hanging up. Stunned, he exchanged glances with Maria, both realizing the stakes were about to skyrocket. Would they be able to face the storm ahead together, or would the shadows of her past reach out to drag them both under? Jason hung up the phone, his heart racing with a mix of confusion and dread. The words echoed in his mind like a dark chant, twisting his thoughts. He looked at Maria, whose face had gone pale, her eyes wide with fear. What was that? She asked, her voice trembling. It was someone warning me about you, about the project, he said, struggling to keep his voice steady. They said it could get messy. Maria's brows furrowed, 1,000 thoughts flitting behind her eyes. What does that even mean? Who was it? I don't know. Just some voice on the other end. But it felt deliberate, like they knew more than they were letting on. He rubbed his forehead, trying to push through the rising tide of panic. Maria leaned back in her chair, her fingers clasping tightly together. This is exactly what I was afraid of. I thought I'd left that life behind. You did. And we can keep it that way. Whatever it takes. His voice was fierce, infused with a determination born from the fear he saw on her face. We just need a plan. But how can we be sure? She whispered, her voice cracking like glass under pressure. What if they decide to come after us? Jason took a steadying breath, grounding himself in the moment. We'll talk to people, find out who might be connected to your past. We can't let them control our narrative, Maria. You deserve to tell your story on your own terms. Silence enveloped them, heavy yet charged. The clattering of dishes and low chatter faded into the background, becoming a muted reminder of the world beyond their table. Jason took Maria's hand, his thumb brushing against her knuckles. "We'll be okay," he reassured her. "I promise." But a shadow flickered in her gaze, a lingering doubt that seemed to echo the warnings they had both just received. "I can't just sit around, waiting for them to strike. I need to go and confront my past, face whoever it is that wants to intimidate us." Her determination blazed, but it was tempered by fear. "Are you sure?" Jason asked, his heart lurching at the thought of putting her in danger. "We can think this through." "Maybe, no." She cut him off, her voice rising above the din. "I need to do this for myself, for our future. I don't want to live in the shadows anymore, Jason." Feeling the weight of her words, he nodded, the resolve shifting like a tide within him. "Then we'll do it together. But let us take it one step at a time. We start with gathering information. It's time to uncover the truth." A flicker of hope ignited in Maria's eyes, shining through the dark clouds that lingered between them. "You really think we can expose them?" "I know we can," Jason replied firmly, squeezing her hand. "We're strong together, and truth has a way of breaking bonds of fear. You've already taken the first steps by sharing with me. Now let us give our child a real future." As they resolved to face the storm ahead, a figure entered the diner, drawing Jason's attention. A man in a worn leather jacket scanned the room, his expression calculating. Jason's heart dropped. "Stay close," he whispered to Maria. The man spotted them, eyes narrowing as he approached, and Jason felt the weight of impending confrontation settle in. "Looks like we're not the only ones willing to take the first step," Maria said, her voice low and nearly a whisper, but laced with bravery. The man stopped a few steps away, glaring at them. "You're not ready for what's coming," he warned. Jason's pulse quickened. "Who sent you?" His expression unreadable, the man shrugged but didn't flinch. "You'll find out soon enough. But trust me, the truth is rarely what it seems." The weight of his words hung in the air like a thundercloud, and Jason felt a chill run down his spine. "Be careful. You're playing a dangerous game." Then, with a flick of his wrist, he turned and left. Maria shivered slightly, her hand slipping from Jason's grasp. "What do we do now?" Jason stared at the door, the heaviness of their reality settling in deep again. The stakes were rising, and time wasn't on their side. "We prepare. We prepare for the truth." And as he looked into Maria's uncertain eyes, he knew they were stepping onto a path laden with peril but also the promise of redemption. Would they have the strength to face what lay ahead? Or would the forces of her past pull them under? Jason's mind raced as he tried to process the man's cryptic warning. The room around them felt claustrophobic, as if the walls were inching closer, pushing down on their shoulders. He glanced at Maria, her fingers trembling slightly as she nibbled on her lower lip, lost in thought. "Jason, we can't stay here," she finally whispered, her voice laced with urgency. "We need to get out, to think, to come up with a real plan." He nodded, standing up and sliding his chair back. The scrape against the linoleum sounded deafening in the quiet. "Right, let us go." As they slipped out of the diner, the cool air hit them like a splash of cold water. The streets bustled with oblivious shoppers and tourists, completely unaware of the storm brewing just beyond their small lives. "We should get to my apartment," Maria suggested, her eyes darting around as if she expected the man from the diner to follow them. "It's more private. We can talk without being overheard." "Okay," Jason agreed, scanning the street one more time for any signs of trouble. They headed toward the subway station, their steps quickening. As they descended the stairs, he could feel the weight of their situation pulling at him, but he chose to focus on the next few steps instead of the frightening unknown. Once inside the subway car, Maria sat across from Jason, her face pale but determined. "What do you think he meant?" she asked, her voice straining against the clattering of the train. "I don't know. But it can't be good. If he knows about your past." Maria clenched her fists on her lap. "I know I tried to bury it. But I can't run from it any longer. Not now, with everything at stake." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Whatever happens, we face it together. We'll dig deep into your past and find out whoever that was working for. I want to let you go through this alone." A flicker of gratitude crossed her face, even amid the brewing storm of chaos around them. "You have no idea how much that means to me," Maria said softly. "You're keeping me grounded." The subway screeched to a halt, and they hurried off, emerging into the bustling city streets that felt both familiar and foreign. There was something unnerving about it now, like it held secrets just beneath the surface. As they approached her apartment, Maria's phone buzzed in her pocket. She fished it out, her expression twisting with worry as her eyes scanned the screen. "It's a message from someone named Ava," she said, her voice trembling. "I don't remember anyone by that name." "Let me see," Jason urged, heart racing again. She handed him the phone, and he opened the message. It was short and clipped. "I know about the project. Meet me at the old warehouse. You have questions. I have answers. What do we do? Is it safe?" Maria asked, her eyes wide with apprehension. His instincts screamed caution, but the urgency of the situation weighed heavily on him. "This could help us figure things out. But we have to be smart about it. If we go, we stick together and trust no one." Maria hesitated, dread flickering in her eyes. "What if this changes everything? What if it leads us to the truth?" He countered. "We'll never know unless we take that step." Face softening, she nodded. "All right. But you promise me we won't just charge in blindly. Scout first, then we decide. Together." As they prepared to leave for the warehouse, an unsettling feeling settled in Jason's gut. Secrets had a way of surfacing, and sometimes they weren't just buried within the ground. Sometimes, they were waiting just beneath the surface, ready to explode from the shadows. Stepping out into the fading daylight, they didn't just walk toward a warehouse, they walked into the unknown. What awaited them there could change everything. Would they uncover the truth they needed, or would it bury them deeper than ever before? The old warehouse loomed in the distance, a forgotten relic of a time when industry thrived in the city. As Jason and Maria approached, the setting sun cast long shadows, making the place seem even more foreboding. Jason's heart pounded as he caught sight of broken windows and rusted metal, each detail heightening his sense of dread. "Are you sure about this?" Maria asked, stopping a few steps behind him. Her voice trembled slightly, and he could see her inner turmoil reflected in her wide eyes. "Yeah, we need answers," he said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. Deep down, fear twisted in his gut, but he pushed it aside. They had come too far to turn back now. Taking a deep breath, he entered the warehouse. The air was stale and heavy, filled with the scent of dust and decay. With each step, old wooden floorboards creaked beneath their feet, adding to the eerie atmosphere. A flickering fluorescent light cast a ghostly glow, illuminating stacks of discarded crates and abandoned machinery. "Stay close," he instructed, and Maria nodded, briefly brushing her fingers against his arm for reassurance. As they ventured deeper into the space, Jason stole glances at Maria, hoping to ease the tension that seemed to wrap around them like a shroud. "We'll figure this out," he whispered, forcing a smile. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught his eye. In the shadows, a figure stepped forward. A woman, tall and confident, emerged from the darkness like she belonged there. Her expression was unreadable, but her piercing gaze seemed to weigh them both. "Ava," Maria whispered, her voice barely audible. "Glad you both came," the woman said, her tone casual, but Jason could sense an underlying tension. She appeared to be in her late 30s, dressed sharply in an all-black outfit that screamed business but hinted at danger. "What do you know about the project?" Maria jumped straight in, her voice firmer than before, as if claiming her narrative back. Ava eyed them closely, her lips curling into a slight smirk. "More than you think. It's dangerous what you've gotten mixed up in. And it's far from over." Jason shot a sideways glance toward Maria, gauging her reaction. She was holding her breath, and he could see the conflict swirling in her eyes. "We need to know, Ava," he prompted. "What's really going on here?" The woman stepped forward, lowering her voice. "There are things happening you can't begin to understand. The project isn't just about your past, Maria. It's bigger than both of you. Lives are at stake." "What do you mean?" Maria pressed. "Life-changing consequences. The people behind this aren't playing around. They've made it clear they will stop at nothing." Jason felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. Fear mixed with urgency gnawed at him. "Then we have to act. Help us," he said, desperation threading his words. Ava hesitated, her expression shifting from playful to serious. "You need to know once you're in, there's no way out. Are you ready for that?" Maria clenched her fists. The weight of her past was creeping back in, and Jason could see the fight in her. "We're willing to do whatever it takes." "Fine," Ava replied. "Then listen closely. There are 3 steps you need to take. Each will bring you closer to the truth, but also closer to danger." As Ava detailed their next moves, Jason felt the gravity of the situation settling heavier on him. They weren't just uncovering secrets, they were stepping into a battle neither of them were prepared for, but they had to. For the truth, for Maria. A loud crash echoed from the far side of the warehouse, rattling both Jason and Maria. They turned toward the noise, a shock of adrenaline coursing through them. "Stay behind me," Jason said, instinctively placing himself in front of Maria as a chill ran down his spine. Whatever awaited them now could be the turning point in their lives. It wasn't just a matter of uncovering the truth anymore, it was about survival. As he called for Ava to join them, an unsettling feeling twisted again in his gut. What had they stepped into? And would they emerge unscathed? The crash reverberated again, along with a scatter of what sounded like footsteps. Jason tensed, his body instinctively leaning forward, scanning the dimly lit expanse ahead. Shadows danced, twisting around old machinery and crates, turning the warehouse into a maze of anxiety. "Jason," Maria whispered, her voice trembling, but he could see the determination in her eyes. This wasn't just fear, she was ready to face whatever lurked in the dark. "Stay close," he urged, casting a protective glance her way. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on them both. They had come for answers, and now they might have to fight for their lives. Ava motioned to the side, leading them past a collection of rusty barrels. "We need to get to the back of the warehouse. There's a door that leads to the next part of this operation." Her voice was firm, but Jason noticed a flicker of worry cross her face. "Where are we going?" Maria asked, stepping forward, trying to sound brave. "To find out the truth," Ava replied, but her eyes darkened. "And to confront those who have been waiting for you." Jason's heart raced at the thought. Who was waiting? What did they want? He glanced at Maria, trying to gauge her courage. She gave him a slight nod, feeling the urgency of their mission. As they pressed on, the air thickened, and the lighting flickered even more. Jason stopped, listening for any sounds that might signal danger. A low hum, distant voices. Was it just his imagination, or was someone closing in? "Follow my lead," Ava instructed, suddenly all business, her demeanor shifting into focused determination. They hurried past dusty crates, the weight of anticipation swelling each step they took, but just as they reached the far end, Jason's instincts kicked in. He felt a presence behind them, a shift in the air that pricked at the back of his neck. "Wait!" he barked, turning sharply. Before he could react, 2 men emerged from the shadows, blocking their path. They were tall, dark figures, wearing grim expressions. Jason's heart pounded harder. These were not casual intruders, these were threats. Going somewhere? One of them said, voice low and menacing. Jason stepped forward, ready to defend Maria, but a waiting silence stretched between them, thick and charged. Get away from us! Maria shouted, surprising him with her sudden fierceness. The men exchanged glances, surprised at her defiance. But one of them smirked, stepping closer. You have no idea what you're up against, do you? Jason surged to the front, fists clenched, but Ava held up a hand, a flicker of uncertainty passing through her eyes. They are here for information, she said carefully. But we can't let them intimidate us. One of the men chuckled, the sound sending chills down Jason's spine. You think that little fire will save you? Just then, the lights flickered violently, and for a split second, everything was engulfed in darkness. A panic surged within Jason. Maria, he shouted, reaching blindly in her direction. Fear gripped him. What if something happened to her? What if, the lights buzzed back to life, and he found her right beside him, unyielding. She wasn't afraid. Instead, she seemed more resolute than ever, summoning all her courage. Enough of this! Maria shouted, her voice cutting through the tension. We deserve answers and we're willing to fight for them. Jason felt the warmth of her strength envelop him. They couldn't back down now. A fierce surge of loyalty ignited within him, and then, in the midst of the building tension, he spotted something glinting in the corner of the warehouse, a small, metallic object reflecting the light. It was an old security badge, worn but engraved with a familiar logo. Maria, look! He said, pointing. That emblem belongs to the project. Before he knew it, the men made their move, closing in on them. With bated breath, Jason realized this was the moment that would change everything. They weren't just here for answers anymore, they were fighting for their very lives. As the confrontation escalated, Jason couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was just beginning. What secrets lay behind that badge? And who would emerge from this struggle alive? The warehouse loomed around them, a chaotic backdrop of shadows and the rising stakes. The two men advanced, their intentions clear and ominous. Jason's heart raced as he stood protectively in front of Maria while Ava prepared to confront their aggressors. Stay behind me, he whispered urgently, though he sensed Maria's determination was unwavering. She was not just a follower in this moment, she was a force. The men drew closer, their posture shifting as if to flank them. You're brave, I'll give you that, the taller one taunted, his voice dripping with condescension. But bravery won't keep you safe. Ava stepped forward. What do you want from us? She demanded, her voice steady despite the tension. We're not afraid of you. Not afraid. The second man scoffed, crossing his arms. You should be. This doesn't end well for you. The words hung in the air heavy and foreboding. Jason's mind raced. He could feel the adrenaline pumping as he weighed his options. He had to stay calm, think clearly, but the anxiety was a living thing inside of him. Suddenly, he pointed to the badge on the floor. That was left here for a reason. You know about the project. What else do you want? The two men halted, exchanging glances. For a brief moment, Jason sensed a crack in their confident demeanor. Nice try, kid, the taller man replied, trying to regain his composure. But we're not here to discuss badges. We're here to make sure no one else finds out what you're meddling in. Why would you care? Maria interjected, stepping from behind Jason. Her voice didn't falter, but Jason could see the fire in her eyes, a mix of fear and resolve that sent shockwaves through him. You think you can just intimidate us into silence? The laughter that followed was chilling, echoing through the empty warehouse. You really don't know how deep this goes, do you? One of them said, a smirk playing on his lips. Ignoring the threat, Ava gestured toward the shadows behind them. This place is riddled with secrets. You think we've come here blindly? In that instant, the lights flickered again, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. Jason felt a thrill of confusion and urgency flood his senses. Every sound, every heartbeat, felt amplified. Get ready. He growled, clenching his fists tighter. He didn't know what was going to happen next, but he was ready to defend them all. The moment breathed its tension, a fragile balance between action and hesitation, but before he could take a step, the doors at the far end of the warehouse crashed open, light spilling into the darkness. Their attention shifted, and a figure stood silhouetted against the brightness. Stop! A voice yelled, cutting through the chaos. Jason strained to see through the contrast of light and shadow. It was a woman, her features obscured, but there was power in her words, authority that demanded attention. You don't want to do this, she warned, her voice steady. There's more at stake than you realize. Jason's heart raced. Who was she? And how did she know what was at stake? He realized then that their fight was not just against the men before them, it was a fight to uncover the truth, to bring forth the shadows that hid their past. Maria caught his gaze, her eyes wide with confusion and recognition. What do we do? She breathed, a tumble of emotions written all over her face. Jason swore under his breath, every instinct in him urging action. As the tension in the air thickened, he knew the stakes had risen sharply, and they were no longer just fighting for answers. What if this woman held the one answer they truly needed? Let us find out, he said, taking a cautious step toward the unknown. But as they moved forward, something beyond the warehouse's walls caught Jason's eye, a flicker of movement that sent a chill down his spine. The light had illuminated something outside, something dangerously close that could change everything they thought they knew. What was that? He whispered, heart pounding once again. Uncertainty loomed large as they prepared to confront the next wave of the unknown, sensing shadows shifting beyond even their immediate enemies. Because whatever was out there, it could either save them or destroy them completely. Jason's eyes pierced through the doorway, searching for the source of the flicker. He felt a surge of protectiveness wash over him, pushing him to act. The moment stretched, the warehouse enveloped in an unsettling silence as everyone seemed to hold their breath. What do you see? Maria's voice broke through the tension, laced with concern. He shook his head slightly, trying to focus, but the unease gnawed at him. The tall man chuckled softly, regaining his earlier bravado. Looks like your little show is drawing some attention. I wouldn't count on it being helpful. Ava stepped closer to Jason and Maria, narrowing her eyes at the men. You think we're scared of a little light? Go ahead. Show us what you've got. Jason wished he shared her confidence. The darkness seemed to pulse around them, amplifying the feeling that they were all wandering into a trap. He could still hear the distant traffic beyond the warehouse, normal life continuing in stark contrast to their precarious predicament. Suddenly, the figure in the doorway stepped into the light, revealing a woman unmistakably fierce in her demeanor. She wore a long coat that fluttered with her movements, casting a commanding presence against the flickering light. Her eyes locked onto Jason and the others, and he felt the weight of her focus as if she was a lighthouse cutting through a storm. Do you know who you're dealing with? She questioned, her voice clear and unwavering. The two men hesitated, exchanging worried glances. Back off, Sarah, the taller man warned, his bravado starting to crack. This doesn't concern you. But it does. Her gaze hardened, and Jason sensed a sudden shift in power. You've crossed lines you didn't understand. What do you mean? Ava asked, glancing between the men and this new woman. What's really at stake here? The woman stepped into the fray, her presence losing none of its intensity. There's a project that was never meant to see the light of day. You stumbled onto something dangerous, and they will stop at nothing to keep it buried, she said, her voice filled with urgency. Jason's mind raced as shadows twisted around the corners of the warehouse like dark tendrils. Could it be true? Were they really in over their heads? Who are you? He finally managed to ask. Sarah, she replied, holding his gaze. I was once involved in that project. I've been tracking the people who could fix what's been broken, but they won't stop until it's settled. But what can we do? Maria interjected, stepping forward beside Jason, her spirit illuminating the tension. We can't just run and hide. If we're already in danger, we need to know how deep this goes. There's a meeting tonight, Sarah said, glancing over her shoulder as though anticipating an unseen threat. A chance to uncover the truth. But if we don't move now as if on cue, the lights flickered again, and chaos erupted. The two men surged forward, clearly unwilling to let Sarah disrupt their plans. Jason instinctively shifted his body in front of Maria, heart pounding in his chest. Stay behind me, he shouted, preparing to confront whatever danger was coming. But the woman stood beside him, fierce and unwavering, as they all braced for the impact of whatever would happen next. Amid the chaos unfolding before them, Jason's thoughts skittered like leaves in the wind. What if they didn't survive this? What if the secrets they were uncovering led them into even darker places? Hold on tight, Sarah shouted, eyes fierce with determination. In that moment, something fundamental clicked within Jason. They weren't just protecting themselves, they were fighting for something bigger. For the truth and for everyone who would be affected if they failed. As tension crackled in the air, he thought about the flicker he had seen outside, the dangerous unknown looming just beyond the walls. They had come too far to turn back now, and in a split second, he made a choice. Let us find that truth, he declared, glancing at Sarah, his heart surging with a mix of fear and adrenaline. Together. But just as they rallied, a shout echoed outside. They're here. Eyes widened, adrenaline surged as the group braced for what would come next. The shadows just outside their sanctuary promised an arrival that could seal their fate forever. Could they handle the truth hiding in the darkness? Moments felt like hours as the chaos unraveled before them. The air thickened with tension and uncertainty, mirroring the storm brewing inside Jason. He took a deep breath, sharing a glance with Maria. In that instant, he saw the fire in her eyes, a silent promise that they would fight for each other, for their dreams, and for the very lives they were about to reclaim. The warehouse door blasted open, and a group of men burst in, each clad in suits that screamed authority. A hush fell over the chaotic scene, their presence both menacing and compelling. Disrupting our business? You've dug your own graves, the leader barked, a smirk plastered across his face, but Jason didn't budge. If you think you can silence us, you're dead wrong. His voice roared, infused with an unexpected courage that he didn't even know he had. And you think you're the heroes in this story? One of the men shot back, but Jason refused to back down. He took a strong step forward, the determination spurring him on, echoing the fight for hundreds of lives across their community. Actually, we're just getting started, Sarah chimed in beside him. We're not afraid of you or your threats. Change is coming. The tension hung, thick and electric. Jason sensed Maria's hand slip into his, grounding him. They were in this together, and together they were unstoppable. The fancy suits faced them, momentarily stunned by the defiance, but then the undercurrent of rage rose up. Let us not get emotional, the leader sneered, flexing his muscles as he stepped forward, but Jason held firm. We don't need to bring this to violence. We could talk, not a chance. Maria's voice cut through, fierce and unyielding. This isn't a conversation, it's a reckoning. And we're ready to expose the truth. A murmur rippled through their adversaries, the confidence wavering slightly. With every passing second, the weight of secrets brushed against everything they fought for. Jason glanced back at Sarah, who gave him a nod, a quiet acknowledgement of the path they had chosen, which had unexpectedly merged. We can start by revealing every shady truth you've hidden under that polished exterior, Ava spoke up, her tone sharp. You've controlled the narrative for long enough, and it's time it changed. The leader, however, wasn't having it. You really think this project matters? It's out of your depth. You're nothing but pawns. But as the men moved closer, the atmosphere shifted. Pawns fight back, Jason declared, raising his chin defiantly. Then, without warning, one of the men lunged toward him. Jason instinctively sidestepped, adrenaline flooding his body. The ensuing chaos unfurled in a jumble of fists and shouts. Jason felt the weight of their dream and the promise of change surge through him. Maria's voice rang loud and clear. "We won, give up." As she shouted, Jason caught a glimpse of conviction lighting up the faces around him, Ava, Sarah, and even a flicker of hesitation in the enemy's eyes. This battle wasn't just theirs, it was the spirit of their community fighting back against the darkness. But then, with a resounding crash, the lights flickered out, pitch black enveloped them. Jason instinctively shielded Maria, heart racing at the unpredictability of the moment. He could hear their enemies scrambling, confusion reigniting hope within him. He called out, his voice steady, "Let them come. We're not afraid." As the lights buzzed back on, Jason saw Maria standing beside him, arms crossed in unwavering defiance. His heart swelled together. They were women and men unafraid to confront the unwavering darkness and the chaos. Sarah sprung into action, joining Jason and Maria, intent on confronting the unsuspecting foes. "This is our chance," she shouted, rushing headlong into the melee, and it was all ignited by that shared strength. As the confrontation ebbed and flowed, Jason reached for Maria, fingers gripping hers tightly, encouraging her, anchoring them both. "We've got each other. No matter what happens." Suddenly, a loud crash resonated from outside, accompanied by shouting voices. It felt like the very world was shifting as help arrived. A surge of people moved into the warehouse, allies ready to stand beside them, thanks to the whispers that had spread through the community, courage swelling around them like a mighty tide. The once oppressive air shifted, lifting the weight the group felt. "You're not alone anymore," came a voice from behind them, a familiar face from the diner steps forward, years of shared concern painted in their eyes. The community had rallied. Jason glanced at Maria, seeing the glimmer of hope reflected in her gaze as she squeezed his hand. "They're here," she murmured, grounding them both. Without thinking, and fueled by the weight of their hope, Jason stepped forward, leading them. "We're ready to expose the truth. To bring this nightmare into the light." At that moment, he felt something shift, not just within him, but in everyone who surrounded them. Together they moved, hand in hand, as they faced the men who had kept them in the shadows for too long, knowing it was not just their fight, it was a fight for everyone that shared their story. The warehouse was no longer a symbol of fear but a place to illuminate the spirits that had been crushed, unearthing hope that would flourish in the light of truth. As the confrontation erupted around them, Jason couldn't shake the feeling that change was inevitable. No matter what came next, they would weather the storm together. In that moment, hope filled not only the air but resonated in the space around them, a new dawn rising from darkness. With their voices intertwining, rising above the chaos, they joined forces strong enough to shift the tide. A vibrant community shattered and lightened by the truth they fought so desperately to uncover. As everything fell into motion, it was made clear, the soul of a community was bound in their stories, their challenges, and their willingness to confront the past. Tonight, they would not only uncover the truth, they would transform their futures. Now, as they braced for the storm ahead, a collective realization emerged: together, they were unstoppable. And united they finally stepped away from the shadows, ready for the dawn. Now is the moment for you to step into action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories filled with transformation and hope. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these powerful stories alive. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to support this channel. Only true fans understand the importance of these actions.